Hey guys, it's Tealus here with another class overview, taking a look this time at the Guardian Druid. This is the last time that we will be inside the Dream Grove, as this is the last specialization to take a look at for all Legion class overviews. This is the first, actually, believe it or not, of all tank specs that I am doing. I've held off on tank specs for a very long time because I was really concerned on their power at the moment. I was afraid that they were too strong, specifically in PvP. I believe they have to have high damage in PvE to maintain threat, but in PvP they were also absurdly high, and so I was afraid that a change would come through and they would be completely changed around and I would have to redo the video. However, it looks like things are settling in place. They're just going to use the PvP coefficients, which are different from the PvE coefficients, to change their damage, and everything seems to be going live the way it is now. So with that being said, we can go ahead and start looking at these last 6 videos, which are all going to be tanks. We're going tanks straight down the line. So the first of these is the Druid, the Guardian Druid, and it is the last of the Druid specs, as pretty much all videos from here on out will be the final of their respective classes. With that, this is the last time that you will be seeing the Dream Grove. This is going to be a 2-video series. In the first video, we will look at the removed, changed, and new abilities for a Guardian Druid, and there are a ton. And then on top of that, we will also look at the artifact weapon, which is these awesome looking claws here. This is one of my absolute favorite artifact weapons that a druid has. It's really cool. They have these big, fist claws that you have, and then it also causes your bear form to change as well. So now you have this epic looking bear form. It's just like Pharaoh form has that epic form for when they for if you're actually Spectus Pharaoh. Guardian Druid has the same as well, and it looks really nice. I really do like it. So they did a really good job with the artifact weapons. But that will be at the end of this video, and then in the next video we will take a look at the PvE and PvP talents for a Guardian Druid. Now PvP generally is completely brand new. Your PvE talents do retain, it's not one of the highly volatile, I guess you could say, PvE talent trees. Instead, it is one of the more ones that has only received small changes. You'll see a lot of returning abilities and so forth. Right now I'm having trouble with my mouse that doesn't want to move correctly. There we go. Okay, we are good to go. And so with that, let's go ahead and look at the removed, changed, and new abilities. A lot has changed here, and it's due to the new playstyle of a Guardian Druid. Now that may concern a lot of you for those who are used to a Guardian Druid. So I'm going to start this first tank video with saying that basically all of the tanks, Blizzard wanted to give them a unique difference from one another. They wanted to make them different and be kind of separate in their own way. There were many tanks that operated the same, and as such it wasn't very fun. There were certain tanks such as Blood and Prot, Paladin specifically, that were really close together in terms of shielding and healing bubbles, etc. And then there were tanks that were centered around dodge, like Brewmasters and Guardians. Well, basically they want to, separate them more. So what they did with Guardian Druids is they felt that Brewmasters were really, the dodging type tank spec. And that was something that Guardian Druids kind of have, which really didn't make much sense. It didn't make much sense for the Guardian Druids to be the dodgers, but you're this big hulking bear. So they transformed Guardian Druid into this really high health, maybe armor oriented type tank. So that is the playstyle and the theme of Guardian Druid now. I should say it's more of a theme change rather than a playstyle change, because it's basically the theme of, okay, I'm in this bear form now, I got lots of health, try and kill me. Just to give you an idea, basically you'll see it when we look at bear changes, but I have 1.6 million health right now, and then when I switch into bear form I have 2.7 million health. So it's a ton in terms of the changes, and you'll see when we look at bear form changes just how much they've increased the focus on making sure that your health bar is really high. So, with that, let's go ahead and go into the removed abilities. First, Cyclone has been removed. It is now a balanced PvP only talent. I don't think that'll affect Guardian Druids too much. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge that shouldn't affect Guardians too much in terms of how they played. So Cyclone is now a balanced PvP only talent. Fury Fire, however you pronounce it, is gone, I believe, across the board now. At one point they did keep it in the talent tree, I think, as a PvP talent, but I double checked before I did this. It's gone completely. So it's kind of weird because that was an iconic Druid ability for so long, and now it's just completely gone from the game. So it's kind of weird for it to be gone, but you no longer have access to it. Ferocious Bite has been removed, and it comes back as a talent. And actually, I'm going to group these all together. Ferocious Bite, Rejuvenation, Shred, and Wrath all are removed and are all now talents. And this deals with the affinity. If you're accustomed to the other Druid videos, you know about affinities. Each class, each specialization of a Druid is able to get their own affinity. We'll get to that when we actually get to the talent video. But basically, all of those abilities are gone, and then they can come back depending on which affinity or talent, I should say, you choose in the talent tree. Next, Lacerate has been removed from the game. Some of its aspects have been kind of merged into Thrash, which we will get to when we get to the actual changed abilities. But for the most part, Lacerate is gone. I'm personally happy with this. I like this change. I wasn't really a big fan of Lacerate. It was great for single target damage, but there are other ways to keep single target threat, and so I kind of liked this change a little bit better, what they're doing. So to me, to be honest, no big deal here in terms of a loss. Mark of the Wild is gone, but so is Power Word Fortitude, so is Arcane Brilliance, Blood Pact. Every single raid-wide buff has been removed from the game because there was just so much overlapping. Everyone had every type of raid buff, so there's really no reason to have raid buffs anymore, so it's been removed from the game. Savage Defense is gone. So this was one of the defensive capabilities of a Guardian Druid that has been gone, that is now gone, and it will be replaced with something else. They want to, once again, they're kind of changing the theme, and then they're a little bit changing the playstyle of a Guardian Druid to fit that theme better. So Savage Defense is one of the casualties of this. Soothe has been removed, kind of like remove Cursed with mages. Abilities that were a little bit out of place. Turn Evil with paladins, I think, is another good example. That were kind of, had limited uses. They decided to just purge out the classes, and that's what they did. Mastery, Primal Tenacity. So this is gone now. Basically, like I said, the theme and the playstyle of a Guardian Druid has changed a little bit, so that is why Primal Tenacity is gone. And if I remember correctly, Primal Tenacity basically gave you like a shield of sorts on your bear form. That's not what they're aiming for in terms of its playstyle, and so they just wanted to go ahead and remove that and replace it with something else. So you will get a new mastery as a Guardian Druid. Primal Fury has been removed. We're starting to enter the more passives here for what has been taken out from our Guardian Druid. So Primal Fury is gone. Resolve has been removed. Survival of the Fittest has been removed. Tooth and Claw has been removed. And then Ursa Major has been removed. So that's a lot of abilities basically cut out. I believe all of them that I just named are all passives. Some of them are passives that were just flat stat buffs. Those have been removed across the board from all specializations, so that's something you can expect. Otherwise, basically, they're just cutting them all out. There's no reason to have them anymore. They're trying to cut down on the amount of just base passives you have in the game, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with them removing passives, and it's cool because, for a lot of the passives that several specializations are losing, they're gaining back in terms of actual active abilities, which is pretty cool. So I'm actually pretty satisfied with that. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move into the changed abilities. There's a lot of changes to abilities here. So let's start with Barkskin. Barkskin's cooldown is now increased from 1 minute to 1.5 minutes, so there's an increase on the cooldown there. There's a new sound effect to it though, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it here so you can just hear it. Pretty cool sound effect, but basically its cooldown has been increased, and you have to take note of that. Bear form. This is going to be something, first let's mention this. All forms no longer cost mana, so I'm not going to go through cat form and travel form. Just know that they no longer cost mana, because that's the only change to those abilities. But all forms no longer cost mana. Basically, Blizzard wants mana to be something that's important only for a few abilities, such as using maybe like a healing touch or something like that. I believe Guardian Druids have, yes, all Druids have healing touch baseline. So for the important abilities they want you to use, they want you to have mana reserved for that. And I'll use a healing touch here, and you're going to see just how much it starts to use. Actually, I'm actually surprised. It actually uses less mana than I would think for a Guardian Druid. But generally, anything that requires mana, they want you to really think about in terms of using it. So an Entangling Roots costs 22,000 mana, Healing Touch 19,000 mana. You'll start to burn through that mana bar pretty quickly if you're out of that form. So that's the bad part of this, is that you have to really pay attention to your mana when doing something like a heal like that. But at the same time, the good part is a lot of abilities that normally would cost mana now will no longer cost mana, because they feel like that's a core part of your spec, and you should not have to worry about mana costs on that, because your primary resource as a Bear Druid and your primary focus should be about the rage you generate in bear form. Other changes to bear form, and this is playing into the new theme of a Guardian Druid, the new playstyle, and that is the armor increase has been reduced from 285 down to 200%. So there's only a 200% armor increase in bear form. However, the stamina increase has jumped from 20% to 55%. So a massive buff to your stamina. And that's what it's all about, is you are this Bear Druid with a high health pool that's able to survive for a long time. So that's pretty cool. Cat form, already mentioned, no longer costs mana. Frenzied Regeneration, it now costs 10 rage, down from either costing 0 to 60 rage. And it will now heal 50% of the damage taken over the last 5 seconds, instead of basically fluctuating based on how much of that 0 to 60 rage you consumed. So there's a change there in how that operates. I personally like the change. It is very much like Death Strike. I believe that's the name of the ability for Death Knights. So that's kind of disappointing that it is kind of copy pasta from Death Knights, but it still is, I think it's better than the old version. Its cooldown has been reduced to 21.8 seconds from 90 seconds, so it's a massive cooldown reduction. You have 2 charges, and it's basically going to be one of your 3 options. Yes, you heard me right. 3 options for damage mitigation as a Bear Druid. Before, I believe you only had just, I think, just maybe 1 or 2. Now you're going to have 3. So it's a great change that they're putting in the game. 21.8 second recharge, so you'll be able to use it, as, if you say, okay, I need to heal my health, okay? You can go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to use Frenzy Regeneration, or I just took a lot of damage, I can use Frenzy Regeneration instead of my other options for damage mitigation. So you can kind of pick and choose what you really want to spend your rage on. Now this one's particularly cheap compared to the others that we'll go through later in the video. So it may be something that you like to use, for burst damage more than using those others, because those others will be pretty expensive. It's going to be up to you. Now, it does have a minimum of 5% health that it will heal. So it will heal for at least 5% minimum of your health, which in bear form is quite a lot. I believe that's 135k health, if I did the math right on that. So it will end up being a lot there in terms of health healed. Especially since 50% of your damage taken, there is no max. They make no mention of any max on that. So there's no maximum amount. So if you take, if you take 2 million damage in, 5 seconds, you're gonna heal for 500,000 back of it in just 3 short seconds. So it's a nice. It's now 21.8 second recharge. It is a nice kind of form of damage mitigation for Bear Druid. So a big change there. Mangle, a lot of changes here as well. It now only generates 6 rage down from 10. it will deal extra damage against bleeding targets. If I'm not mistaken, this is how Mangle used to be. Either Mangle used to deal extra damage against bleeding targets, or it used to increase bleeding damage against for other bleeds. I can't remember which one it is. I'm actually starting to think it was actually the latter instead of the former. So it will be basically it deals 20% additional damage against bleeding targets. This is basically stripped from Maul, because this was on Maul, and they put it now on Mangle. Generates 6 rage, down from 10, so there's a nerf there. It no longer reduces movement speed, so there's another nerf there. And then its cooldown has been reduced by, I'd say, approximately 0.5 seconds. On live, it was showing up as 6 seconds. Here, it's showing up as 5.44 seconds, so a little bit of a nerf there in what it does. But this is still your basic, your basic damage dealer in terms of just straight gonna get single target damage out there on the target. So, you may be wondering, like, what's the big deal of dealing extra damage against bleeding targets when you don't have something like Lacerate anymore? We'll get to that. There are more changes in store, so we'll get there. Maul has been changed. It no longer reduces the target's movement speed, and it no longer deals 20% extra damage against bleeding targets. So Maul is basically just straight damage now. 2.72 second cooldown, costs 20 rage. Basically, you build up your rage, and this is what you will use for just flat damage overall, is going to be your Maul. So, that are the changes with that. Moonfire is now castable in bear form baseline. I believe this is the compensation to Fairy Fire not being around, is you're able to do AoE threat from a distance with Moonfire, which I'm not really complaining with, because Moonfire is one of the coolest looking spell visuals in the game to this date. It's one of the first spell visuals to ever get an update to a spell visual, and it looks awesome because of it. So I really don't have a problem with this. It now lasts only 16 seconds, down from 20, and it costs no mana at the same time. So, you're able to keep Moonfire on your target, not cost any rage, and at the same time, able to build up your rage because of it. So, pretty awesome ability right there, and I'm not really complaining with it. So that's pretty awesome. Prowl. This is kind of minor for bear druids, but basically, Prowl will no longer reduce movement speed. This was a feral enhancement. It is now baseline for all druids across the board. Rebirth's cast time. It's now instant cast, up from 1.84, or down from 1.84, if you want to put it that way. It used to be a 1.84 cast, now it's instant. This makes sense to me, especially as a Guardian Druid. If you're tanking, it's really hard to get off a Rebirth if you really need to in a raid setting. So the ability to, maybe if it's a melee boss, to get out of range and cast a Rebirth real quick and then go straight back into bear form is really useful. Also, you can say, hey, I need someone from distance to taunt the target. There are a lot of DPS specs. If you're a tank, I should say, if you're a DPS spec or even a healing spec, and you have a tank spec as well, such as, example, Druid's a perfect example, but Paladin being another one, you can taunt the target so that the tank can quickly get off an instant cast Rebirth, and then the tank can immediately taunt it right back and get threat back on the main boss. So a lot of options there, and I think it really will help out in terms of PvE. Survival Instinct's got a huge nerf. It's now cooldown per charge is 4 minutes, up from 2 minutes. So now 60% damage, reduces all damage you take by 60% for 6 seconds. It's going to be a max 2 charges, so it is a big nerf there for Survival Instincts. Your Teleport Moonglade. It's been renamed to Dream Grove, and it sends you somewhere else. I will show you this at the end of the video. It's really cool, but it has changed. And honestly, when you first enter, when you're on the 7.0 live and Legion hasn't been released yet, Teleport Moonglade will still be there. It changes to Dream Grove after you get to your class hall and everything. So it won't be an instantaneous change, but it will be changing. Thrash. There's a lot here changed with Thrash, and this is kind of where Lacerate has been baked in. It now has a 5.44 second cooldown, so it has that that 5.44 second cooldown. tagged onto it. It now lasts 15 seconds, down from 16, so that's actually in line with what Lacerate was. It can now stack up to 3 times while in bear form, which is kind of what Lacerate was. So it does the bleed, and that bleed can stack up to 3 times. So, I mean, I will, I still have the cooldown on here, but I can stack it up, and you can see that training dummy to my left. Now it says I have 2, and it refreshes it. And then I can do it again. So now I have 3 stacks. So this, compared to Lacerate, in which you were able to get, single target damage really easily on a target with 3 stacks of Lacerate, now it's much easier for you to hold AoE threat as a bear druid by just stacking 3 Lacerates up really quickly, which is really nice to have. Now, in addition, I normally don't report on damage. However, this damage number I did take note of because it is significant. If there's a significant change in damage number, I will let you know. The bulk of the damage for Thrash now is now in the instant attack rather than the bleed. If I remember correctly, going through what was on live client, looking at Lacerate, the current Thrash, and the new Thrash that was coming out for beta, I believe Lacerate had a pretty even, you dealt this much damage initially, and then you dealt a certain amount of damage equally later. Thrash, you dealt very little damage in the beginning, and then you dealt a lot of bleed damage. Though that was the old Thrash and Lacerate. Swap those two, interchange those two. I can't quite remember what they were, but that's what they were. The new Thrash is now all the damage is front-loaded with the big attack, and then the bleed comes later. So this allows you to basically get instantaneous threat on a target in an AoE scale, and then the bleeds then allow you to maintain that threat. Honestly, I think it's just a better change overall for the class, and it'll make things nicer in terms of a Guardian Druid and keeping its damage in PvP. So that's really cool. With that being said, there's one last little change that we need to go to, and by the way, if you haven't noticed, I have not shown this in the balance video because it was so long ago, but they have changed Lunar Strike as a balanced druid. You'll see it right there. That's the new Lunar Strike, which looks amazing, so I'm really excited about that for balanced druids. Anyways, getting a little sidetracked there. The last little change to Thrash is that it now generates 4 rage instead of 1 rage every time Thrash deals damage. So the bleeds on Thrash used to, give you 1 rage every time it dealt damage. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's now just straight 4 rage every time you use it. So I come up here, I use this, I get 4 rage. That's it, okay? You're not getting any more besides that. So, it basically, I mean, if you did, it would be absurd in the amount of rage that you could generate with this. And so they changed it so that you could no longer do that. So now generates a 4 flat rage instead of 1 rage every time Thrash deals damage. So a nerf there into its rage generation. Travel form, mentioned before, no longer costs mana. And with that, that's all of the changed abilities. Hopefully you're starting to see where druids are going. Specifically with bear form, you can see basically where they're going in terms of the change to their theme style. And then as we get into these new abilities, you'll really start to understand basically where everything falls into place. So, new abilities, Incapacitating Roar has been taken off the talent tree and now given baseline to Guardian Druids. It still functions exactly the same, so it is there. Good old Incapacitating Roar is there. The first new ability that is important is called Iron Fur. This, along with your Frenzy Regeneration, is your first kind of damage mitigation. Increases armor by 67% for 7.5 seconds, and multiple uses of this ability may overlap. So, I'm going to build up my rage here just so we can show this off as best as possible. I actually don't know the best way to generate rage on the Guardian Druid at the moment. So I'm going to do my best to just build this up as max as possible so I can get 2 of these off. And then we're actually going to open up my stat window so that we can take a look at just how much armor increase I have here. So armor right now is at 55.72. That is what my armor is at right now. I'm going to use Iron for twice. And my armor now is up to 15,000 in terms of how much it has. and I can use it again, and it's at 10,000 now, so it's dropped off from what it was before, back up to 15,000. So you can have a lot of armor reduction there. And that is from Iron Fur. That is your first damage mitigation ability for a for a Guardian Druid. And I'll use it here just so you can see the spell visual. You can see it's a little orange glow around you. That is Iron Fur. Okay? The next new ability for a Guardian Druid, which is your other form of mitigation, is Mark of Ursol. 45 rage as well with a 0.5 second cooldown, reduces magical damage by 30% for 7.5 seconds. So, one thing of note here is that this will not stack like Iron Fur will. Iron Fur will stack, Mark of Ursol will not. So just pay attention to that as a Feral Druid. One thing I've kind of noticed is that I think this might be the case. We'll see as I kind of go through the different tanks. There are going to be certain tanks that are better against mage magical damage, and then there will be tanks that are better against physical damage. I think overall, bears will be better just against all types of damage. But considering that you can stack Iron Fur as opposed to you can't stack Mark of Ursol, it may be Iron Fur bears might be a better physical tank. I'm not quite sure. It may also be the fact that basically armor does not give as much damage mitigation as just straight 30%. And right now physical damage reduction's at 42%. Let's go ahead and use double Iron Fur again and see what 15k puts me at. Puts me at 67%. So that's a 25% increase. That's actually pretty close. So double Iron Fur stacking does do that, but it costs twice as much to actually reach that. So it's, you know, it's going to be kind of up to you. It's going to be up to you to decide. So I can get up to 15k in armor reduction, gives me up to 67. Or the other option is to choose this other damage mitigation if it's magical damage you're worried about, and then you can use Mark of Ursol, which I will use right here. And they really don't have a good visual indicator for this. You saw Iron Fur with the little orange around it. They don't really have a good indicator for... they don't have a very good indicator for Mark of Ursol to show that it's active. I mean, I can use Iron Fur right here. You can see the orange around me. But then when I activate Mark of Ursol here, you'll see that it's just not quite as good. So we'll go ahead and back up here and use Mark of Ursol, and you just get kind of a like Mark of the Wild buff over your head, and that's it. And you just know that you have 7.5 seconds of reduction in terms of the damage you're taking. So, magical damage specifically that you're taking. So, those are your two damage mitigation, in addition to Frenzied Regeneration. So you have a lot of options there in how to mitigate damage as a Bear Druid, and it's all built around the fact that you have an amazing amount of health to play with as well. So, take note of that. That is the new theme for a Guardian Druid. With that being said, there are still some more new abilities to go through. We haven't even gotten to the new Master yet. So let's look at Swipe has been added to actual Bear Druids. So in addition to being able to do, you know, your Thrash, you can then use Swipe afterwards to increase, you know, kind of like your just single target hits on the target. And Swipe, and you know, it's simple. It doesn't cost any rage, so it's swipe nearby enemies, inflicting 50,000 physical damage. It's not as powerful as the others, but it still does a lot of damage. So definitely nothing to sneeze at there with Swipe, something that's really nice. The next new ability is going to be called Gore. This is actually a passive. Using Thrash, Swipe, or Moonfire has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle and cause it to generate an additional 4 rage. This has happened several times, so I'm going to go ahead and use this and build it up real quick and see if we can get it to actually proc. Actually, we'll just use Swipe over and over again. There we go. There's the proc, and you see the glowing eyes above me. That is the proc for Gore right there. So with that said, before we get to Mastery, let's look at Thick Hide. Thick Hide is back, reduces damage by like 10%. So Thick Hide is the passive that is kind of plays into the whole affinity thing. If you are not a Guardian Druid, if you choose to have Guardian Affinity, you get Thick Hide. So right now you can see on here I have Isira's Gift as a passive, but that is actually a passive talent that comes from a Restoration Affinity. So basically this was added in so that you have that affinity to work with in terms of the talent tree, which we'll get to when we get to the PvE talent tree in the next video. So, Mastery, Nature's Guardian. Increases your maximum health and healing by 11%. Also increases your attack power by 11%. Plain and simple, however, it very much plays into the theme. I'm not a big fan of plain and simple. Because, you know, like, a good example would be one of the Warlock specs, I think, is just like, flat increases shadow damage by X amount. Whoop-de-doo, okay? You know, as a demonology or affliction warlock, I can't remember which spec it was, you know, my theme is not dealing shadow damage. My theme is, you know, putting lots of dots on a target and doing tons of damage, or sending out tons of demons to deal with, you know, the opponent. That is not my theme. My theme as a bear druid, though, is having lots of health and, you know, people having to deal with it. And so I'm okay with this being the mastery. So now it's just more mastery you have works into the same as having more stamina. Just lots and lots of health, which is pretty cool. And honestly, I like this much better than the old shield type thing that they had with Mastery Primal Tenacity. So definitely, I think a big upgrade in terms of the Mastery for a Guardian Druid. With that, that is everything new for a Guardian Druid. There's a lot there, and I really do like. I hope I got across to you guys what the new playstyle, more importantly the new theme of a Guardian Druid is. With that, we get to take a look at the artifact weapons here, which are really, they're just so cool. They're one of my absolute favorite artifact weapons. So I have these big claws. I will say they look a whole lot better on a Worgen and probably like a Tauren than they do on my Night Elf Hunter on my leveling realm. She looks kind of awkward because these fists look like they would anchor her arms into the ground. But she's somehow able to hold them up. So that's kind of funny, but they're really cool weapons. So with that, let's go ahead and look at the first initial ability you have, which is Rage of the Sleeper. Unleashes the Rage of Ursoc for 10 seconds, preventing 25% of all damage you take and reflecting 74,000 nature damage back at your attackers. So let's go ahead and just go into bear form, we'll attack a little bit, and then we'll use it here with Rage of the Sleeper. So here we go right here, we'll use it right there. I get all big and red and like, I wouldn't say on fire, because that doesn't really look like on fire, but that is really cool. It just, you look like an enraged, you look enraged. So it's the Rage of the Sleeper, so it's pretty good. I love how it's called Rage of the Sleeper because, you know, the bears all are always hibernating and so forth. I think every quest line in World of Warcraft dealing with bear druids specifically is like, go rescue them from their sleep in their burrow den because they're asleep and you need to wake them up, and it's kind of funny like that. So I'm really happy with how things turned out, and I do like that ability. So really cool special effects there. With that, let's go ahead and look at this. This is the claws, or these are the claws of Ursoc. So Ursoc and Ursol, I believe, are the two brothers, or brother and sister, I can't quite remember, that are like the old ancient demigods, or gods, I can't remember. Not really good at my Warcraft lore. From War of the Ancients, though, you get to deal with it in the storyline. But let's look at this talent tree. We'll start where we normally do, where you will on the talent tree, and we'll kind of work our way around the tree here. So we saw Rage of the Sleeper. The first option here is Iron Claws, increases your armor by 5%, so you'll get that, like, that's the first one that you will get. Like, the way it works is kind of cool. Like, your talent tree, when you first see it, all you'll see is this ability, and then this first talent, and then you'll click on this talent, like in your little tutorial, and then all of these other talents will show up. You know, and so you'll be able to see where you would like to go next for your talent. So it's pretty cool. So the first one you get is Iron Claws, increases your armor by 5%. The one on the left here is Vicious Bites, increases the damage dealt by Mangle by 15%, so that's 5% per rank, 3 ranks. We have Wild Flesh, increases the healing done by Frenzied Regeneration by 15%, so that's 5% per rank, 3 ranks on that one as well. We have a Bear Hug, increases the chance to trigger Gore by 5%. If you remember, Gore is that new ability that is coming for Bear Druids, which using Thrash, Swipe, or Moonfire has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle and cause it to generate an additional 4% rage, or 4 range, not 4% rage, 4 rage. Do note that it is using the ability, so Thrash, Swipe, and Moonfire, not any dot ticks from Moonfire or Thrash, just so you know. So that's Bear Hug. Over on the right hand side we have Perpetual Spring, reduces the cooldown of Bark Skin by 9%. So, I mean, right now it's sitting at 1.37 minute cooldown, should be about 1.5. So, 3 ranks, 3% per rank on Perpetual Spring. Over on the left hand side we have Sharpened Instincts. Survival Instincts reduces all damage you take by an additional 10%, 3 ranks, that's 3, 7, 10, or 3, 6, and 10. So that brings up to a full 60% as opposed to 50%. Down here we have Ursock's Endurance. Increases the duration of Barkskin, Iron Fur, and Mark of Ursol by 1.5 seconds. So you have a little bit of a duration there. So its original duration is 6 seconds. And then this basically jumps it all the way up to 7.5 seconds. And it'll be 0.5 seconds per rank. The first epic portrait we have here is Gory Fur. Mangle has a 15% chance to reduce the rage cost of your next Iron Fur or Mark of Ursol by 50%. So the rage cost is generally going to be, well, I already have it right now. So it's right now I have a 22% rage cost on this, which means I'm able to use this immediately. The original rage cost is 45, so it even gives us a little bit of change on it. But basically your Mangle is what allows you to get that extra buff if you need to, so you can actually get more stacks of Iron Fur if you actually need it, if you're able to get it in that 7.5 seconds. On the top side here, we already went through Perpetual Spring, but we have Reinforced Fur. Iron Fur increases armor by an additional 12%, so that's going to be 4% per rank on 3 ranks. And then we have Adaptive Fur. We're talking a lot about our fur here as a Bear Druid. Taking elemental damage has a chance to grant you 10% damage reduction for 15 seconds against elements that cause the damage. So just example, Frost Mage deals frost damage to you. You now have a chance for 10% damage reduction on all frost damage. I'm not quite sure how that works with stuff that deals like shadow frost damage or something like that. I'm not sure if it counts for both of them. You get a 10% reduction on both shadow and frost, which I think it really should be. Or if it just chooses one of them randomly, which would be kind of absurd. So, not quite sure about that, but that is what Adaptive Fur is. Going up the other way of the tree, we have Roar of the Crowd. Stampeding Roar increases your movement speed by an additional 5% per ally hit, up to a maximum of 25%. So Stampeding Roar is 60%, and if you're able to hit 5 allies, that increases to 85% increased speed for 8 seconds. Over here we have Bloody Paws. This is only going to be, Roar of the Crowd is only 1 rank, and so is Bloody Paws. Bloody Paws, Thrash reduces the movement speed of its targets by 50% for 6 seconds. So, if you notice as we went through all the changed abilities, you lost a lot of, this ability reduces lost myself here. It got rid of a lot of the slows. There was a slow on Mangle. It's gone. There was a slow on, I believe, Maul. It is now gone. Instead, now, it's on Thrash, which I'm not complaining, because Thrash has an 8-yard range, which is really nice. So you have an 8-yard range AoE snare, as opposed to a melee range snare, which is what it used to be. So yes, you had multiple abilities in which you could get, kind of snares on them, but I'm kind of liking Thrash being applied to it. I might have liked it better if it was Swipe that had it, because Swipe doesn't cost any rage, and well, Thrash doesn't, but Thrash is on a 5.44 second cooldown. I would like it better on Swipe, because Swipe can be used as many times as I want without any type of cooldown. But beggars really can't be choosers, and if you choose the right talent in the talent tree, this can be increased to about a 13-yard range. So having a 13-yard, I mean, it's like piercing hell for Guardian Druids, I guess you could say. So that's kind of what it's like. On the left side here, we have Mauler. Increases the critical strike chance of Maul by 10%. 3 ranks, that'll be 3, 7, and 10, or 3, 6, and 10. Not quite sure. We have Jagged Claws. Increases the damage dealt by Thrash by 15%. 3 ranks, 5% per rank. We have Bestial Fortitude. Increases stamina by 3%, so once again playing more into that health game. 1% per rank. And then lastly, we have Embrace of the Nightmare. Druids are all about, the the Emerald Dream, and of course the Emerald Nightmare as well. While Rage of the Sleeper is active, you'll deal 25% increased damage and gain 25% increased leech, and are immune to all effects that cause loss of control of your character. So this just turns you, I mean, this is like Bestial Wrath, but for Guardian Druids now. So this is pretty awesome in terms of what it is able to do. It has all the reflecting damage, it has the damage reduction, it prevents you from being, losing control of your character. You deal 25% increased damage, and you have 25% leech. Awesome ability overall. 1.5 minute cooldown, 10 seconds. It lasts for 10 seconds, so it's, it's like a 1/9. I don't even know what that would be, but a 1/9 uptime there. 90 seconds, 1/9 uptime on it. So it's pretty nice to have. It's a nice burst ability to have. Honestly, if you're a PvPer, I can honestly see you moving up to the north end of this talent tree, especially to get something like Bloody Paws, and then you'll move south, whereas the PvEers will likely just be moving directly south immediately. So, with that, that is everything for Guardian Druid in terms of their abilities and their artifact weapon. Really nice changes. I really like where Guardian Druid is going. I really like the new health pool style of play for Guardian Druid. I think it's much better for them. I think that matches more what they should be doing, and so I really do like that. And I hope they continue along with this. So with that, in the next video we will take a look at the PvE and PvP talent tree for Guardian Druid. There are a lot of fun abilities in there that just that I've actually had a lot of fun, and seriously considering Guardian Druid being actually my favorite spec in World of Warcraft Legion, which I don't think has ever happened before. It's pretty much always been balanced for me. So we'll take a look at both of those talent trees in the next video. Otherwise, from the Dream Grove, this is Tearless, and I'll see you guys later. Tearless out.